Even after the storm, love grows where lies were planted. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. If you believe that every storm eventually passes, stay with us until the end of this story. Because sometimes, the calm after the rain is not silence, it is rebirth. In a quiet Kansas town surrounded by endless golden fields, Emma Collins begins her mornings before the sun rises. She moves through the rows of sunflowers with a watering can in her hand, brushing her fingertips across the petals still wet with dew. The town has not fully awakened yet. The air is cool, and the only sound is the rustle of flowers turning toward the light. For Emma, this is peace. Her flower shop, *Sunrise Blooms*, sits at the corner of Main and Willow Street, a place locals describe as where mornings begin. The front window is always full of color lavender, daisies, and rows of sunflowers that seem to glow even when the sky is gray. Customers come and go, leaving with smiles, but Emma's smile never lingers long after they leave. She has learned to protect her quiet world. Years ago, she was engaged to someone who promised forever but left when life turned difficult. Since then, Emma has built her own version of forever steady, simple, and safe. Her friends tease her for living like time has stopped, but she knows that in her garden, time heals differently. The soil remembers. It forgives slower than people do. Every flower in her shop has a story. She knows which sunflower first bloomed after the drought, which rose came back after frost. To her, tending flowers is not work. It is a conversation with things that cannot lie. The petals may fall, the stems may bend, but they never pretend to be something they are not. Outside, the Kansas sky shifts from pale pink to amber. The town hums to life trucks passing, the sound of a screen door slamming shut, a radio somewhere playing old country songs. Emma ties her apron tighter and arranges a bouquet for a local wedding. The bride wants yellow tulips, the color of joy. Emma thinks about how joy, like flowers, does not last unless you take care of it every day. For her, love is something that belongs to others, now to those who still believe it can bloom again. She only tends to what she knows will grow. But as she looks out the window, she sees a car she does not recognize pull up near the shop. The driver steps out, tall, tired-looking, with city shoes not meant for dirt roads. He pauses to take in the field before him, then walks slowly toward the entrance. Emma wipes her hands on her apron, not realizing that this stranger will soon change everything she thought she understood about peace, trust, and what can grow after the storm. Because every story begins quietly until the first drop of rain falls. The next morning, the sound of the shop's bell breaks the usual silence at Sunrise Blooms. Emma looks up from arranging a bouquet and sees the stranger from the day before. His clothes are still dusted with dried mud from the dirt road, and there is a quiet exhaustion in his eyes that no amount of rest could fix. He introduces himself as Luke Henderson. His voice carries the rhythm of someone used to speaking in boardrooms, not small-town stores filled with flowers. He explains that he recently moved into a small rental house on the edge of town. He says he is taking a break from work, needing time away from too much city noise. When he asks if she is hiring, his tone is careful, half serious, half shy. Emma hesitates but agrees to let him help with watering and deliveries. Her assistant had left for college 2 weeks earlier, and she could use an extra pair of hands. Luke spends his first few days learning quietly. He watches how Emma touches the flowers, how she checks soil moisture by feeling it between her fingers. She does not rush. Everything she does follows a rhythm that feels almost sacred. By the third day, Luke finds himself humming along to the small radio on the counter as he stacks pots near the window. When he accidentally spills a watering can, the same way he did on his first visit, Emma laughs again. The sound surprises both of them. Luke smiles and says softly, "I guess I am consistent." She shakes her head and replies, "Consistency keeps things alive." As the days stretch into weeks, Luke becomes part of the landscape. He starts arriving early, often before Emma unlocks the front door. Together, they load fresh flowers into the van, making deliveries to weddings, churches, and the retirement home across town. Along the way, they share small stories. Emma talks about her mother, who believed that sunflowers were proof that even after loss, beauty can return. Luke listens, careful not to reveal much about himself. In the evenings, They sometimes walk through the fields behind the shop. The Kansas sky stretches endlessly, painted in shades of orange and gold. Emma tells him how storms used to scare her as a child, but her father taught her that rain was never the enemy. You just have to wait, she says, because everything that survives the storm comes back stronger. Luke looks at her then, realizing how those words carry more truth than she knows. His past feels heavier in that moment. He wonders how long he can stay before she learns who he really is and what he has done. But for now, he allows himself the illusion of calm. One afternoon, as they finish repairing a fence damaged by wind, Emma wipes sweat from her forehead and glances toward him. "You are not really used to this kind of work, are you?" she asks. Luke laughs. "Not at all, but maybe that is why I need it." Emma studies him for a second, as if trying to understand the meaning behind his words, then hands him a small plant. "This one is stubborn," she says. "If you take care of it long enough, it might surprise you." Luke takes the pot in his hands, feeling the rough edges of the clay. He nods slowly, but his gaze lingers on the distant horizon where dark clouds are beginning to form. Neither of them speaks, yet both sense the quiet before the next storm. Summer deepens in Kansas, and the rhythm of sunrise blooms becomes as familiar as the beating of a heart. Every day begins the same way. Emma unlocks the shop door, Luke turns on the lights, and the smell of soil and coffee fills the air. Their mornings are quiet but never empty. The town has started to notice the pair, the man from the city, who seems to belong nowhere else, and the woman who finally laughs again. Luke adapts quickly. He learns how to trim stems the right way, how to pack fragile bouquets for long drives, and how to tell when the rain will come by the way the wind bends the grass. He no longer looks like someone hiding from the noise of his old life. Emma watches the change but does not comment. She has learned that some people heal best in silence. On weekends, they visit the local farmer's market to sell Emma's flowers. Luke drives the old van while she arranges the display. Children stop to pick petals from fallen blooms, and older couples leave with armfuls of color. The simplicity of it makes Luke smile in a way he has not in years. He begins to understand what Emma meant when she said that care makes things grow. One afternoon, as they prepare to close the shop, Luke finds her standing by the window, watching the last light fade across the field. "Do you ever get tired of this?" he asks. Emma shakes her head. "No, everything changes here, even when it looks the same. The flowers remind me that life does not need to be big to be full." He nods, quietly thinking about how different that sounds from the life he once knew. He does not tell her that he used to design skyscrapers that reached the clouds but left no room for air. He does not say that the company he worked for once wanted to build over a place much like this. As summer heat builds, they spend more time outdoors, repairing fences and planting new seeds. One evening, while fixing the wooden posts behind the shop, Emma pauses to rest. Sweat darkens her blue shirt, and sunlight catches in her hair. She turns toward Luke, smiling. "You are not built for farm work," she teases. He laughs softly. "Maybe not. But I think I needed something real to hold on to." Her gaze softens. "Sometimes the things that seem fragile are the strongest," she says. "If you care for something long enough, it learns to care for you back." The words settle between them like a promise neither fully understands yet. The wind moves through the field, carrying the scent of rain. Luke glances at the horizon and notices dark clouds beginning to form. They do not look dangerous yet, just heavy, waiting. That night, after he drives home, he opens his laptop for the first time in weeks. On the screen is a folder labeled Greystone Developments. Inside are the blueprints he once designed, the same project that almost erased a sunflower field just like Emma's. His name is printed at the bottom of every page. Luke closes the computer slowly. He looks around the small rented house, the walls bare except for a single plant Emma gave him. For the first time in years, he feels both guilt and peace in the same breath. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance. The storm is still far away, but he knows it will come. And when it does, the truth he has buried in silence will not stay hidden forever. The following week brings a change in the air. Kansas heat thickens, and the quiet rhythm that has carried Emma and Luke through the summer begins to shift. The wind feels heavier, the clouds hang lower, and even the flowers seem to turn their faces more slowly toward the light. Emma senses the weather's restlessness, but she does not yet see that a different kind of storm is forming, one that will not break over the fields, but over their hearts. Luke has become a familiar sight around sunrise blooms. The townspeople nod when they pass him at the market. Some ask if he and Emma are together. He never answers, only smiles politely and continues loading boxes of flowers into the van. He tells himself he is content with this quiet life, yet every day he feels the weight of the truth pressing harder on his chest. One afternoon, while organizing old invoices behind the counter, Emma notices a rolled-up blueprint sticking out of Luke's worn leather bag. She does not mean to pry, but the paper slips and unrolls slightly. Her eyes catch a printed name, Greystone Developments. The letters stop her breath. She knows that name. 3 years earlier, Greystone had tried to buy her family's land acres of sunflower fields her parents had spent decades nurturing. The company wanted to build a commercial complex. Her father fought the deal until his final days. The memory feels like a scar that never faded. Luke returns from the delivery van, wiping his hands. He freezes when he sees the paper in her grasp. "Is this yours?" Emma asks quietly. He nods, the hesitation almost imperceptible. "It is old work. Before I came here, Greystone." Her tone is calm but tight. "You worked for them?" "I left before anything was finalized," Luke says, voice steady but too measured. "I had no part in what they did to this town." Emma studies his face. He looks honest, but something in his eyes flickers a shadow of guilt that betrays the words. She sets the blueprint down gently. "I did not know," she says. "You should have told me." "I wanted to," Luke admits, his voice low. "But every time I tried, it felt like saying it would undo everything good I have found here." The space between them fills with silence. The sound of wind brushes against the window panes, carrying the scent of distant rain. Emma walks toward the front door and looks out at the horizon. The sunflowers sway under a restless sky. She remembers her father standing in that same doorway years ago, refusing to sell the land, saying, "Once you let go of what roots you, nothing grows right again." She turns back to Luke. "You should go home for the day," she says softly. "We will talk later." He wants to protest, but he sees that her hands are trembling as she arranges a vase that does not need arranging. Without another word, he leaves, the bell above the door ringing once, sharp and hollow. Outside, the first raindrops begin to fall, tapping against the windows like whispers. Emma locks the door and stands in the center of the shop, surrounded by the scent of earth and rain. She presses her palms against the counter, feeling her heartbeat echo through the wood. The man who helped her rebuild her fence, who made her laugh again, who made her believe in the quiet kindness of life, had once designed the plans that almost erased the world she loved most. She looks toward the fields, now dark under the storm clouds. The horizon flashes with distant lightning. Somewhere beyond that line of gold and gray, Luke drives away, his past chasing close behind. And Emma, standing among her flowers, whispers to no one, "You lied to the land." The storm arrives before dawn. Rain lashes against the glass windows of sunrise blooms, drumming with the fury of a truth that can no longer stay buried. The wind bends the sunflowers outside until their stems nearly break. Emma stands by the doorway, helpless, watching the world she has tended with her hands and heart struggle to stay upright under the weight of the storm. She has not seen Luke since the evening she discovered the blueprint. He sent no message, left no note. A small part of her hopes he has already gone back to the city and that his silence will make it easier to forget. But deep down, she knows he would not leave without trying to explain. By midday, the wind grows wild. A loose shutter slams open and breaks the front window. Emma rushes to cover it with a board, rain soaking through her clothes. Mud fills the path to the greenhouse. Buckets, flower pots, and tools scatter across the ground like fragments of the life she built. In the distance, she sees a figure running toward her through the downpour. Luke reaches the porch, drenched and breathless. "You should not be out here," he says, shouting over the wind. "I have to protect what is left," she answers, grabbing another board. "This place is all I have." He steps closer, holding the board steady while she hammers it into place. "Emma," he begins, but she stops him with a look. "Do not," she says quietly. "Not now." When the last nail is in, she drops the hammer and faces him. The rain streaks down her face, mixing with tears she does not bother to hide. "Why did you come back?" "Because I could not leave it like this," Luke says. "I could not leave you like this." Her voice shakes, but her words are sharp. "You lied to me, Luke. You lied to this land. You built the very thing that nearly destroyed it. You do not get to come here and pretend you care now." Luke lowers his head. "I did not know what it would cost," he says. "I thought it was just a project, not someone's home. When I saw this place, when I met you, I understood what I had taken part in. I tried to fix it, but it was already too late." Emma turns away, her hand gripping the doorframe. "It is still too late," she whispers. For a long moment, neither speaks. The sound of rain fills the silence between them. Luke steps back, his eyes on the field that is now half drowned in water. The sunflowers bow under the storm's weight, their golden faces turned down toward the mud. He knows this is the moment to leave. There are no words strong enough to rebuild what truth has broken. Without another sound, Luke walks away through the rain, his figure fading into the gray distance. Emma watches him until he disappears, her heart breaking not from anger, but from the hollow knowledge that she had once believed him capable of gentleness, and that belief, too, was washed away by the storm. Days turn into weeks, and the storm's destruction lingers long after the clouds drift away. The air smells of wet earth and broken stems. Half of Sunrise Blooms stands in ruin, its front windows boarded, its fields reduced to patches of mud and twisted sunflowers. The sign that once read "Fresh Flowers Daily" now hangs crooked, letters faded by wind and rain. Emma works alone. She starts before sunrise and ends after dark, repairing what she can. She no longer plays music in the shop. The laughter that once filled the space is gone, replaced by the quiet scrape of tools and the sound of her own breathing. When neighbors stop by to offer help, she thanks them but refuses. It is easier to work than to talk. At night, she sits by the small lamp in her living room, sorting through water-damaged receipts and wilted stems. Each one feels like a reminder of something lost: not only flowers, but trust, faith, and the fragile warmth she had begun to feel for Luke. She tells herself that what happened was inevitable. Beautiful things, once cracked, rarely mend without leaving marks. Far away, in a rented house outside town, Luke cannot forget. He wakes to the sound of thunder even when the sky is clear. He keeps the same small plant Emma gave him on the windowsill. Its leaves droop, neglected, but he cannot bring himself to throw it away. Every time he looks at it, he remembers her words. If you care for something long enough, it learns to care for you back. Luke spends his days trying to make amends in the only way he knows. Through quiet persistence, he contacts the county office and applies for an environmental restoration grant under Emma's business name. He gathers documents, writes letters, and meets with officials who barely remember the Greystone project. He uses his own savings to fund repairs for the greenhouse roof, arranging the work through a contractor anonymously. He does not want her gratitude. He only wants to undo the harm he once helped cause. Emma hears from the contractor weeks later, surprised that part of the cost has already been covered. When she asks who paid, no one can answer. She suspects, but she does not allow herself to confirm it. She focuses instead on planting new seeds, rows of lavender, wild daisies, and a smaller section for sunflowers. The ground is softer now, easier to till, as though even the earth understands her exhaustion. By late summer, small shoots begin to rise again. The green lines across the field look fragile, but they carry quiet strength. Emma kneels in the soil, pressing her hands into the dirt, feeling life return beneath her palms. The wind moves gently, carrying the scent of rain from far away. She looks toward the empty road where Luke once stood and wonders if redemption, like flowers, can take root in silence. Then she whispers to the field, "Grow, even if no one is watching." Autumn arrives quietly, carrying with it a thin layer of mist that settles over the fields each morning. The air feels cooler, calmer, as if the land itself is beginning to forgive what the storm took away. The sunflowers Emma planted months ago have grown tall again, their golden faces smaller but stronger, shaped by wind and patience. Inside Sunrise Blooms, the shelves are once more filled with color. There are fewer bouquets than before, yet each one seems to hold more meaning. Emma has learned to live with the silence. It no longer hurts the way it once did. The wound has closed, leaving behind a mark that reminds her of everything she has survived. One afternoon, while reorganizing books and ledgers that had been soaked by rain, she opens a floral journal Luke once borrowed. The pages are wrinkled, faintly smelling of old paper and soil. Between two pages, a folded envelope slips out. Her name is written on the front in careful handwriting she knows too well. Emma stares at it for a long moment before opening it. Inside is a letter dated weeks after the storm words that were never sent. Luke writes about the things he should have told her sooner. He confesses that he was not just a designer for Greystone. He was the lead architect who signed off on the first phase of development. He explains how he left the company after learning what his designs had cost others. He writes about the guilt that drove him to Kansas, and how meeting her made him realize that redemption does not come from leaving the past behind, but from facing it fully. The letter ends with a single line that makes her chest tighten. "If love can grow in the same soil where I once buried truth, then maybe nothing in this world is beyond saving." Emma folds the paper slowly and holds it against her heart. For the first time since he left, she lets herself cry not out of anger or betrayal, but out of understanding. Over the following days, she begins to notice things she had missed before. The repaired greenhouse roof. The new delivery van parked by the back lot, half paid for by someone unknown. The letter confirms what she already suspected. Luke never stopped trying to make things right, even when she refused to see him. As the trees outside turn shades of amber and red, Emma writes a short note of her own. She does not know where to send it, so she leaves it tucked inside the journal where his letter once was. It says only, "The flowers are growing again. I hope you are too." That evening, she stands on the porch, watching the horizon fade into orange light. The air carries the faint chill of another season approaching. Somewhere beyond those fields, she knows he is out there changed, maybe healing, just like the land they both nearly lost. And for the first time, she whispers his name without pain. Winter fades gently that year, leaving the Kansas earth soft and ready for new life. The air carries a quiet warmth again, and the morning frost melts sooner each day. Emma wakes early, as she always has, to check on the seedlings inside the greenhouse. Rows of green shoots stretch upward, fragile but determined. It feels different now. The silence of the past months no longer feels lonely. It feels expectant, like the pause before something beautiful begins again. By mid-March, Sunrise Blooms begins to reopen in full. The shop smells of lavender and soil. Customers who once whispered about the storm now come back, smiling as they step inside. Emma greets each one kindly, her voice steady and calm. She does not speak much about what happened, but her eyes carry the kind of strength that only comes from surviving what once broke you. That afternoon, while arranging a bouquet near the front window, she hears a car slow down outside. The sound makes her stop. She looks up, and for a moment, her breath catches. The old truck parked near the fence looks familiar. A man steps out, holding a small clay pot with a single sunflower blooming from it. It is Luke. He stands there quietly for a moment, unsure whether to knock or leave the flower by the door. His hair is shorter now, his face lined with the tiredness of someone who has spent a long time learning how to begin again. When Emma finally opens the door, neither of them speaks at first. "I thought you might need one more flower," Luke says, his voice soft but clear. Emma looks at the sunflower. Its stem is thin, slightly bent, but it stands tall enough to reach the light. She takes the pot from his hands and smiles faintly. "You grew this?" "I tried," he says, almost laughing. "It is smaller than I expected, but it survived." She studies him for a moment, then gestures toward the field behind the shop. The land is covered in young plants, stretching as far as the eye can see. "So did these," she replies. They walk together through the field, their boots sinking slightly into the damp soil. The scent of rain lingers in the air, clean and full of promise. Luke glances at her, then says quietly, "I cannot erase what I did, Emma. But if you ever let me, I want to stay through the next storm." She stops walking and turns to him. Her eyes are no longer guarded, only thoughtful. After a moment, she nods. "Then you should start by helping me water them." She hands him the old metal watering can, the same one he once spilled in their first meeting. Luke takes it with both hands, smiling. Together, they begin to walk down the rows, pouring water over the seedlings. The sun breaks through the clouds, and for the first time in a long while, the light feels like forgiveness. Months pass, and the world around Sunrise Blooms transforms once more. The fields that were once bare and scarred after the storm now stretch endlessly in shades of gold and green. The wind moves softly through the rows of sunflowers, creating the sound of quiet applause across the valley. Every petal seems to carry the memory of everything Emma and Luke have endured: the mistakes, the distance, the forgiveness, and the return. Life in the small Kansas town settles into a new rhythm. Locals stop by the shop not only to buy flowers, but to talk, to share stories, and to find calm in the scent of blooming lavender and fresh soil. Emma's smile, once reserved, now comes easily. She greets everyone with warmth that feels genuine, not rehearsed. Luke works beside her most days, rebuilding fences, repairing signs, and learning the patience it takes to care for living things. He does not rush anymore. He listens to the earth the same way he listens to her, carefully, humbly, and without expectation. By late summer, Sunrise Blooms is chosen for the county's Community Renewal Award, recognizing its contribution to environmental restoration. The ceremony is small, held outdoors beneath a white tent overlooking the fields. When Emma's name is called, she steps forward, her dress brushed with sunlight and dust. Luke stands quietly at the edge of the crowd, his hands in his pockets, his face calm. When the applause fades, Emma holds the plaque for a moment before speaking. Her voice carries clearly through the gentle wind. "This land taught me something I once forgot," she says. "It taught me that storms are not endings. They are reminders of what still matters. And sometimes, the things we thought were lost forever find their way back just in a different form." She looks toward the far end of the field, where Luke stands. Their eyes meet briefly, and the unspoken understanding between them says more than any words could. That evening, after the guests leave, they walk through the fields together. The sky burns in hues of amber and rose. The flowers sway in the fading light, and the scent of summer clings to the air. Luke breaks the silence first. "You rebuilt everything," he says. Emma shakes her head. "No," she answers softly. "We did. The land did. It only needed time and care." They reach the middle of the field where the first sunflower he brought her months ago now stands taller than both of them. Emma touches its stem gently, and then she smiles. "Maybe love is the same," she says. "It does not stay untouched by storms. It bends, it breaks, it roots deeper, and somehow it grows again." Luke nods. "Even after the storm," he whispers. Emma glances at him, her eyes filled with quiet light. "Yes," she says. "Love grows where lies were planted." As the last sunlight dips beyond the horizon, the camera of memory fades over the endless field of gold, a living testament that even from the soil of pain, something beautiful can bloom again.